Amid the controversy over America's leaked Yemen war plan, Houthis claimed they targeted several warships in the Red Sea, including the U.S. aircraft carrier.
March 22nd, 2025, somewhere above the Red Sea. A clear sky, perfect visibility, an American F-16 Fighting Falcon on routine patrol. Nothing unusual, until the ping. A warning light flashes red. Radar lock. Another blip. Then, a missile launch. The pilot slams the stick. Instinct takes over. The F-16 rolls hard to the right. Flares are deployed. Countermeasures activated. A heat wave slices through the air. An infrared-guided SIAD missile, fired from Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen. Fast, silent, and meant to kill. The missile adjusts its course, targeting the engine's heat plume. 30 seconds to impact. The pilot pulls a 9G turn, the aircraft groaning under the immense pressure. A final flare explodes behind the jet, brilliant and hot, confusing the missile's seeker. Boom! The missile detonates in the air, too far away to be dangerous. The jet lives. But the question is no longer how the Houthis got such a missile so close. The real question is, what happens when you miss? Because this wasn't just a dogfight. This was bait. The missile didn't just fall out of the sky. For weeks, the tension in the Red Sea had been escalating. Commercial tankers were rerouted. American destroyers crisscrossed the waves. And the Houthi forces were becoming increasingly bold. This wasn't the first time they had tried something like this either. Just a few days earlier, an American MQ-9 Reaper drone was shot down off the coast of Yemen. A trophy they proudly displayed on Telegram. That action did not go unanswered, but it emboldened them. And then they made their next mistake. They thought a drone and a fighter jet were the same kind of prey. The U.S. had already issued warnings. Carrier strike groups had changed their formation. Aegis destroyers were repositioned. But the Houthis, backed by Iranian technology and training, believed they could continue to escalate without real consequences. So when an American F-16 flew into their radar net, they fired. Only, this time, the jet fired back. That F-16 wasn't just patrolling. It was part of a broader ISR network, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, designed to detect missile activity along the Yemeni coast. And what that pilot didn't know at that moment was that he was the final bait in a very dangerous game of catch. In recent weeks, the Pentagon had authorized a change in posture. No more waiting. If a radar lit up on the wrong aircraft, it was now considered hostile. If a launch occurred, retaliation would be automatic. The rules of engagement had been changed silently, formally. And in this case, the Houthi launcher had made the ultimate mistake. It lit up long enough to be seen, fired once, and stayed in place for a few minutes too long. That would be its last mistake. Because aboard the USS Eisenhower, the pilot's call wasn't just received, it was recorded, analyzed, and converted into targeting data. Live feed, thermal signature, missile trajectory, GPS lock. The revenge clock had already started ticking. At 28,000 feet, the F-16 was still flying westward, along the edge of Yemeni airspace. The pilot had barely recovered from the evasive maneuver when his RWR, the radar warning receiver, lit up again. New contact, a different angle. The first missile had missed, but there was more. This time it wasn't one signal, it was a series. Multiple radar locks, spread out and fast. A classic Soviet SAM system from the Cold War. But the Houthis were using Iranian copies of the same technology. SIAD-class systems, upgraded with better seekers and mobile launchers. Slow to set up, even slower to hide. But when active, deadly. And they had the pilot in their sights. The pilot's left hand gripped the throttle. Afterburners engaged. His right hand switched on the countermeasure system, ready for another flare dump. Behind him, the exhaust glowed white-hot against the cool desert night. A perfect infrared target. Viper 3 defensive, multiple locks. Repeat, multiple launch points. Request support overhead. A Growler from VAQ-140 is en route. The Patriots were already jamming with electromagnetic interference, like invisible smoke confusing the Houthi radar systems. It gave the F-16 a split second. He nosedived and went full throttle. The G-forces pressed him into his seat. His vision narrowed, but he kept the vector high. The pilot turned again and pulled the jet into a barrel roll at 700 knots. Just in time. One of the incoming SIADs missed by perhaps 60 meters, close enough to make the cockpit shake. But that was it. That was their chance. Because what the Houthis didn't know was that they were being observed the entire time. From high above, at almost 60,000 feet, a Navy MQ-4C Triton drone was circling in wide ISR loops. Not armed, but it didn't need to be. Its job was to be eyes, and its eyes saw everything. Thermal spikes on the ground, electronic pulses, precise coordinates, all streamed back in real time to SANDCOM and, more importantly, to the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The confrontation had lasted less than 2 minutes, but the aftermath would take hours. As the pilot returned to a holding pattern above the Red Sea, 2 other aircraft joined him. First, a second F-16 from the 421st Fighter Squadron, which took his wing position looking for new threats. Then came the call from command.
Engagement confirmed, target data locked, hold position, birds en route.
But even before the jets took off, the Navy wasted no time. Deep in the hull of a nearby Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, VLS cells opened up. Vertical launch systems. Inside, Tomahawk cruise missiles, precision-guided, long-range, ready for immediate launch. The launch order came in less than 5 minutes after the missile threat had ended. Target Alpha, Fire 1, confirmed trajectory. 1 missile, then 2, then 4. Each screamed into the night, silent after launch, in an arc eastward towards the Yemeni coast. And this was just the beginning. On the deck of the USS Truman, preparations were already underway for a second phase. Pilots were briefed, weapons loaded, jets refueled. This was not improvisation. This was protocol. The moment the missile launched, the response was already in motion. The missile had failed, but its data was successful. It gave the U.S. Navy a window, a confirmed location, a launch site, and a tactical footprint. And in modern warfare, that's all you need. Because the retaliation wasn't just coming, it was coordinated, layered, and deadly. While the Tomahawks flew low over the waves, the aircraft took off in sequence. First out was an E-2D Hawkeye for electronic overview. Then a pair of EA-18G Growlers, electronic warfare platforms armed to blind radar and disrupt communications. And then the Hammers, 4 FA-18 Super Hornets, loaded with GBU-38 JDAMs and AGM-88 HARM missiles. Target package simple. Missile launcher site primary. Suspected command post secondary. Mobile radar truck spotted via drone thermal tertiary. The Growlers began their run and emitted broadband jamming. The Houthis probably had no idea they were even a target until the first explosion lit up the coast. The Tomahawks struck first. The radar trailer disappeared, the launcher shattered and burned. Then came the Hornets from 25,000 feet. JDAMs fell silently and accurately, impact after impact. Secondary explosions confirmed ammunition, fuel, perhaps more hidden missiles. The final strike, a HARM missile locked onto a last radar pulse from a mountaintop station. By the time it hit, the air was already thick with smoke. Back in the cockpit of the original F-16, the pilot listened to the communication with quiet intensity. No cheering, just confirmation.
Target neutralized. Strike successful. RTB, return to base.
Inside the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Eisenhower, the atmosphere shifted from defensive posture to offensive readiness. No shouting, no panic, just clear voices calling out status reports and targeting locks. Telemetry confirmed, launch grid locked, target Alpha hot. The commanding officer of the Eisenhower didn't hesitate. One sentence was enough.
Package Bravo, execute.
And with that, the retaliation protocol went into effect. What is Package Bravo? In Navy terms, Package Bravo isn't a light slap on the wrist. It's a hammer to the head. It's the name for a multi-domain attack sequence involving cruise missiles, airstrikes, and coordinated EW, electronic warfare. The targets are all confirmed offensive systems that fire on U.S. aircraft or dare to lock on, and the Houthis had just triggered it. The plan unfolded in layers. From the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, about 160 kilometers off the Yemeni coast, VLS cells began to open up like mechanical flowers. 25-foot-long vertical tubes filled with Tomahawk missiles. Long-range, GPS-guided, and brutally accurate. They don't need pilots. They don't even need confirmation, just a target. And now they had several. 4 Tomahawks were launched in sequence. Not rushed, no fireworks, just a quiet thrust and vanishing arcs. Missile site Alpha confirmed. SIAD launcher target 1. Mobile radar vehicle target 2. Suspected C2 command and control hub near Ras Isa, target 3. Ammunition storage depot picked up via MQ-4C thermal scan, target 4. Each plotted, programmed, and en route within 5 minutes. Meanwhile, 110 kilometers away aboard the USS Truman, the flight deck came alive. Steam hissed across the catapults, red shirts locked in munitions, while green shirts refueled jets with machine-like precision. Yellow shirts directed FA-18 Super Hornets into position. The smell of jet fuel and salt air hit like adrenaline. Above all this, an E-2D Hawkeye had already taken off, its radar dish spinning, drawing a real-time map of everything in the air and on the ground. Moments later, 2 EA-18G Growlers roared into the sky. These aren't your average attack aircraft. They're flying blackout machines, armed with ALQ-218 receivers and jamming pods. The Growler's job is to turn Houthi radar into static noise. No locks, no guidance, just confusion and chaos. Following the Growlers was the payload, 4 FA-18 Super Hornets, each fully loaded, hardpoints packed with joint direct attack munitions and high-speed anti-radiation missiles, smart bombs and radar seekers designed to follow signals and blow them to hell. High above all this, a Navy MQ-4C Triton drone was still circling. No sound, just cold optics and warm targets. It monitored everything: post-strike heat plumes, vehicle movements, potential evacuations. The second any Houthi unit tried to hide, it was flagged. Data flowed from the Triton to a relay satellite and then directly to the Eisenhower's fire control team. And they were ready to redirect strike assets in real time if needed. This wasn't revenge, this was architecture. At exactly 2:12 local time, the first Tomahawk hit missile site Alpha, obliterated. Surveillance drones confirmed secondary explosions, indicating a stockpile of ordnance. The heat signature remained hot for over 20 minutes. 2 minutes later, Target 2, the radar truck, lit up the coast in an orange glow. Its emissions had pinged one last time, enough for a harm missile to home in like a bloodhound. Then came Target 3, the suspected command post, built into a hillside covered with camouflage. It didn't matter. One JDAM from 20,000 feet blew the door off the bunker. A second collapsed it in on itself. Target 4, the ammo depot, was a fireworks show. The FA-18s had come in low, fast, and clean, their bomb racks now empty. They climbed back into the clouds. No losses, no alarms, just silence and smoldering debris on the ground. While the physical strikes happened, the Growlers ran interference. They jammed every known Houthi frequency, scrambled early warning radars, and spoofed their detection systems into seeing ghost fleets. In other words, while the Houthis tried to figure out what had hit them, they couldn't even talk about it. No comms, no signals, just fear, smoke, and blank screens.